My name is Dr. Leanne Calvert, and I'm a senior lecturer in history here at the University of Hertfordshire. My research focuses on two broad areas: gender and the family, with a particular focus on Ireland, and the connections between religion and sexuality, with a special focus on Presbyterianism. My current project brings these two areas together, entitled Sexuality and Social Control, Presbyterians in Ireland and North America. The project takes the form of a comparative study of the sexual and social worlds of Presbyterians on either side of the Atlantic. It aims to trace similarities and differences in the experiences of women and men who shared a common faith. So why Presbyterians? My work uses the records of the Presbyterian Church to understand the ways that attitudes towards sex and sexuality were formed and negotiated. The Presbyterian Church was supervised by a hierarchy of 3 church courts. While each church court was responsible for a particular area of church business, all were concerned to some degree with church discipline. Misbehaviours that caught the attention of the church courts included things like alcohol misuse, slander and defamation, adultery, fornication and incest. When a member of the community was suspected of transgressing community norms, they were called to appear before the church court. A clerk kept minutes of the proceedings, and it is these minute books that form the bedrock of my research. These records provide a wealth of information on the intimate aspects of everyday life. Salacious stories of stolen trysts in backrooms, fields and forests, misbehaving ministers riding on horseback and falling down at the pulpit, and church members physically brawling in streets and the pews and exchanging colourful insults are just some examples of the cases I work on. Importantly, the records of the church allow us to access how women and men at the time thought about deviancies. Far from being a top-down process, the minute books reveal how church members actively spied on one another. They used their ears, eyes, tongues, and even noses to sniff out bad behaviour. For example, it was not unknown for individuals to hide under beds, secret themselves in cupboards, or listen through doors and floors for the sounds of naughty goings-on. So why sex? You might be wondering why an emphasis on sex and deviancies. Aside from the fact that I find it desperately interesting to research, examining sex and sexual attitudes from a historical perspective tells us lots about who we are today. It is important to remember that our ideas about sex and sexuality are contingent on historical time and place. Today, just as in the period covered by my research, definitions of what was deviant and what was normal were constantly in flux. At certain points in time, certain relationships may have been deemed taboo, while at others they were completely acceptable. Where we have sex, when we have sex, who we have sex with, and what we do as part of the act of sexual intercourse, and the meanings that underpin those expressions are shaped by the environment around us. Understanding the processes that give rise to those decisions allows us to critically engage with and disrupt accepted narratives in our history, particularly those that emphasise a heteronormative framework. Sex and sexual practices not only have their own history, but they shape our current understandings and are therefore deserving of historical attention.